This April setup is for anyone who has ever looked up at the night sky and felt the magic of the stars. It's for anyone who grew up watching Sailor Moon, or dreams of sci-fi lives on other planets, or can imagine a whole galaxy spilling out of a teacup. Hi, it's Erin, and this is April in the Mystery Journal. As always, there are links to all of the stationery I'm using in this video down in the description. I'm working in the Sage Leaves journal from Sassy Pigeon HQ, and it was these galaxy-style scrapbooking papers that inspired this entire theme. I'm pretty sure I got these from JOURNALSAY originally, but they don't seem to be available there anymore, so I have added a link in the description to a very similar style of paper. I'll also be using these purple printed textured papers. Some of these are washi, some of them are PET, all of them are sticky on the back, which is helpful. These are also from JOURNALSAY, and they are still listed on the website, although the purple colorway is currently out of stock, sorry about that. This is the Galaxy Girl sticker sheet from Sticky, and I knew one would not be enough, so I got two of it. It has this beautiful gold sheen when you catch it in the light. Absolutely gorgeous. And both of these sticker sheets are also from Sticky. They're called Celestial Coffee and Celestial Coffee 2, respectively. They kind of take the concept of a tempest in a teacup and make it a galaxy in a coffee cup. I've also got these watercolor effect PET stickers that I got from a set at Spotlight quite some time ago, using all of the yellow and orange variations there for some contrast with the purple, and of course every yellow and purple pen that I have in my possession. I won't use all of them, but I will use some. Before we get started on the setup, a word from our sponsors Skillshare. I recently took a couple of weeks off from making videos so I could rest and creatively refresh, and I really wanted to spend some of that time being creative in ways that I don't usually have time for. This Skillshare class was the perfect place to start. It's called Modern Botanical Folk Art. Draw and paint whimsical flowers and leaves using gouache and watercolor with Peggy Dean. It was so much fun. Peggy had an incredible tip about looking for inspiration in lace patterns, which blew my mind, and I love that the aim here is to make something fun and vibrant. Realism is not the point. In case you haven't come across Skillshare before, it is the largest online learning community for creatives with a comprehensive range of classes across an incredibly diverse range of topics, from illustration and filmmaking and photography to marketing, business, and personal development. All the classes are taught by industry experts excited to share their tools, techniques, and professional journeys with you, and you can learn at your own pace with on-demand video lessons and stackable learning paths. Whether you're just dipping your toe into a new hobby or leveling up your creative career, Skillshare is all about making the choice to learn, grow, and nurture your creative practice, just like you would your health and wellness. If you think of creativity like a muscle, then it makes sense that you'd exercise it in order to grow and build your skill. If your New Year's resolution has fallen off a little, or you didn't start the year with one in mind, it's not too late to dive in and practice your creativity with Skillshare, and I've got an extra little treat to help you. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to our cosmic-inspired April bullet journal setup in the Mystery Journal. Since these papers have so much impact on their own, I wanted them to really feature on the cover spread, so I'm just working out where the edges will need to be that I cut off to make them fit well on the page, chopping those off with my little straight edge blade tool, and I'm going to stick those straight down as the main basis of the page. And I did strategically choose where I wanted to cut these off so I wasn't losing my favorite parts of the galaxy design. I've also chosen 2 sheets of that galaxy paper that look like they belong next to each other. None of them are exactly the same, but these two look like they could almost be continuations with the way the colors work in them, so I wanted that little pop of pale yellow throughout the center. The glue tape I'm using in this video is not the glue tape that I have linked in the description because it's not the greatest, the one I'm using. It goes okay, but there are better ones out there, so go with the link and not these ones. They're from Officeworks and they do the job, but there are far better glue tapes to be had. Something I found really tricky with this setup is the fact that the paper had such a visual weight of its own already that adding extra things on top of it was a bit of a tricky business. You could lose things and it would all look pretty overwhelming, so I'm sticking with adding my decorations kind of just around the outsides, and I'm using these clear silicone letter stamps along with my gold paint marker. Not really going to work so well. These don't work great with the paint markers, unfortunately. The silicone stamps work way better with a proper ink pad. You can see here when I lift it up that not much of the ink actually transferred onto my sticker paper there. It has worked a little bit better the second time around with a different paint marker. It's possible I've just used my gold so much that it's drying out, it's running out of ink, and that's a good thing really, because I have loved my gold markers. See, that's a bit better. And I don't mind the little bit of gold behind it there. I feel like it's a little drop shadow effect almost. I really wanted to have my headings and also my quote for this cover spread on some white sticker paper so that it would jump out from that galactic celestial kind of looking background. And to keep some consistency from the serif font that I've stamped the April with, I'm also using letter stamps for the quote here, which is going to be, "There is stardust in your veins." The smaller letter stamps are just rubber stamps on a wooden block, and they work a lot better with the paint markers, so something to keep in mind. And I'm going to just stick to rectangles for everything this time, so I'm not going to follow the shape of the letters with my scissors or anything. I'm just going to cut these into blocks, and I think that looks pretty cool. It's a little bit like Tumblr circa 2013, don't you think? I like it. The sticker sheets I'm using for this setup have lots of smaller little sparkle stickers that do a really good job of filling up a lot of space very quickly because you can kind of just scatter them around. I also wanted to make sure there was a decent amount of yellow represented on this spread so that we could really introduce the theme before we move forward into the other spreads, because the yellow is going to feature quite a bit throughout. And I'm just going to keep sticking until I'm happy with how it looks. With the April cover spread complete, we can move on to the first of the functional spreads, which is the calendar. Since we are in space for this theme, I thought it would be cool to have these kind of suspended and floating as though there is no gravity. Usually I really like drawing a grid for my calendar and filling things in, but I thought it would be more fun to have it open this time, so the lines I'm drawing at the moment with the paint markers are just the indicator for where the initial and the number for each day of the month will sit. I'm alternating between a more purple toned paint marker and a more blue toned paint marker, and I'm also using those on my silicone stamps again to add the initial at the very top so we know which column represents Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so forth. Because I've oriented my calendar a little bit to the left side, having Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on the left side of the spread, and only 3 days on the right side, I've got a little bit more room for decoration over the right side of the spread, and I'm going to take advantage of that. But we do have a little sliver down the left too, so I'm basically going with the outside edges as the basis for my decoration this time, leaving lots of nice negative space through the center. My scrapbooking paper is square and not quite as tall as the spread is, so I'm trying to make sure that I can still get a full stretch of it from top to bottom of the page by just cutting it into the size I need and trying to find parts that look like they could go together and then covering those little gaps with some stickers. It's almost like if you were building a wall and you filled in the extra space with some wood filler, except the wood filler is stickers in this case. Also, I only have so many sheets of that scrapbooking paper, so I'm going to supplement it with these purple patterns in some places as well, just so I don't run out halfway through. I'm also trying to make sure that I'm rounding the corners of anything I'm sticking to the corners of the page before I stick it down, just to make my life a little bit easier. On thinner paper this isn't always possible, but the ones I'm using for this setup it is actually pretty easy to do. And it gives a much more professional overall look, so I do think it's worth it if you remember to do it. Otherwise you can just trim around the corner of the page with some scissors. I wanted to make sure you could really clearly see the numbers on top of each of these little day of the week floating lines. So I'm adding those with my favorite white paint marker. This one is from a set from Peter Pauper Press and I've been using it forever. I can't believe it still has some paint left inside. I will be replacing it with the same one if at all possible when I eventually run out. And we need some yellow represented here, so I'm taking one of these ink blot kind of watercolor splotchy bits. I cut part of it off so it wasn't taking up too much room, but I have realized actually in applying this that I'm covering quite a bit of space that will be needed for planning for the 27th, so it's going to need to move down, and we will do that soon. Like with most things in life, it could do with just a little bit more sparkle, and then the calendar spread is done and we can move on to the next of our spreads. On the left side of this spread, we'll have spaces for setting goals for the month and writing down any favorite things, and on the right side will be our 1 line a day section. I'm taking the opportunity to add a second line highlight with a nice light Tombow purple marker, and I'll do the same on the opposite page as well, but for that one I'm going to alternate colours, so we'll have the same purple that's on the left side and also a kind of pinky purple colour as well. If you've been following along the Mystery Journal adventures on my channel, then you'll know that I'm always doing the same spreads in the Mystery Journal. So this one goes from January through to June of 2025, and after that things will change up because I'll move into a different journal. So what the heck is the Mystery Journal? If you aren't familiar, this is actually a journal that I put together for 6 months of the year across November and December of last year, and then gave away to one of my subscribers. It's really a win-win situation because I love that I get to give a ready-to-use journal to someone who maybe doesn't have time to set one up or needs some inspiration or doesn't know where to start. I also get to create some more inspiration for you watching so that you can have some more ideas for your own journal. I get to experiment with layouts for a journal for someone who isn't me because my employment situation is quite unusual. I work from home, I make my money making YouTube videos. It's a very kind of niche way to live, and so my journal doesn't always reflect the needs of most people. So this gives me an opportunity to try to give you some more relatable inspiration, I guess, and it's also a chance to use up some of my stationery because I am in the very privileged position to receive a lot of stationery for free, and it is definitely more than one person can use. So I love having this outlet that I can channel things into to play with, or things that maybe wouldn't necessarily be something I'd jump at including in my own journal. And it's also just a lot of fun to set up a bunch of bullet journal layouts that I don't even necessarily have to use. I really enjoy the process. So even though you're only seeing this video now, I actually set this up back in December, and I mailed the journal to the winner in December as well, so it has been with them since around Christmas time. I'm actually starting planning on the next mystery journal this month, March of 2025, so if you have any ideas, if there's anything specific you'd like to see me add to it, particular pages or anything like that, please let me know in the comments down below, and the giveaway for that one will open in early May to be given away in early June, so that the journal can make it to the next winner before the beginning of July so they can use it for the second half of the year. This spread is just about done. We've got the goals, favorites, and 1 line a day sections all sorted out. So let's move on to the next spread. And this one's kind of a dashboard for tracking. I'm starting out by drawing a little tracking table along the top of the spread. This is going to be for tracking habits, so there's space for the winner of the journal to add 6 different habits here that they might like to track across the course of the month. There are also some overall 6-month trackers at the beginning of the journal too, in case they want to be able to see lots of data in one place, but this is a good place for any habits they just want to focus on this month. At the very top of that table, there is a space that is for the initial and the number for each day of the month. And so when you want to mark that habit as done, you can find the correct date across that top line and then track it down to the habit that you're tracking and pop a little circle or a little dot or something else in that area, color it in, whatever you like, just to indicate that the habit has been completed on that day. I've deliberately oriented this habit tracker to the top right kind of corner of the spread because I want to use so much of the rest of the spread for a really fun mood tracker. I love getting creative with the mood trackers in the mystery journal. I don't do them in my own journal anymore, but I really enjoy the creativity and the flexibility of them, especially when you want to make them a little bit of a creative project of their own. So imagine that yellow sticker I just stuck down is some kind of a sun, and the lines around are the planetary paths. And I'm going to stick these little stickers that I made with a combination of Canva artwork and some sticker paper and my Cricut along those pathways, and they are going to be there for the winner of the journal to color in every day of the month in a color that represents their mood. And I think this is so cute. Although I really underestimated how much room I would need for all of my stickers, I probably could have made them a little bit smaller, but I like the size they are because you can see all of the details in them. We're just going to have to add some more planetary pathways for them to sit on top of. April is a month that has 30 days, so I have 30 little illustrations down here for them to color in now, which means they just need a little number to denote which one is for which day of the month. and then we can add a little key so that it's easy to keep track of which colour represents which mood. While I have sent any leftover stickers and extra little bits of paper and that kind of thing along with the journal in case the winner wants to add more decoration, I haven't sent any pens or markers or pencils or anything, so the winner can use their own resources to add things like the colours for the trackers, and they can choose to tie in with the theme colours if they want to, or they can choose something entirely other. It's completely up to them because this is their journal now, not mine. I still need to add a little bit of decoration to make sure that this ties in with the rest of the setup, but there is a lot going on in the spread already, so I didn't want to go too hard. I'm just sticking a little bit of colour on the habit tracker along the date box at the top there, and a tiny little bit of decoration above that, and that is plenty. We're going to leave it there. Let's turn the page and move on to our spending log on the left side and a reflection page on the right. Apparently I don't like to set things up in a linear way. I'm doing the right side first and then we'll move back to the left side. I don't know why my brain is like this, but it is. I really liked the alternating second line highlight from earlier, but I wanted to get some yellow, some peachy kind of orange introduced there, so I'm using the pens that will reflect that. And we're going to stick to purple on the other side so that everything's still feeling quite cohesive, because of course there is a lot of purple throughout the setup. The spending log on the left side here is for keeping track of purchases so that things don't get kind of out of control. There are 3 columns in that table for item, category, and cost. Some people might like to track all of their spending, some people might like to just track larger expenses. This does reflect back to an overall cash flow tracker that's back at the beginning of the journal too, so you can keep a holistic eye on finances throughout the year. I'll be adding the pretty at the top and bottom of the spread this time, our decoration, so I've decided to stamp my headings onto some sticker paper and place those at the top over the top of whatever decoration happens, so they're still really easy to read and stand out from the background quite a bit too. That's our spending and reflection spread all sorted, so we're going to turn the page and move on to the spare spread. This one is for the winner of this journal to adapt in whatever way they need, because everyone is different and I don't know what kind of spreads you might need in your journal that I haven't even considered. So by having a pre-decorated but mostly blank spread in each of my mystery journal setups, it bakes in the flexibility for the winner of the journal to adapt this to whatever their needs are. I included a couple of these back in the beginning of journal tracker pages as well, but I feel like it's always good to have one within the monthly setups too, just in case, and I decorate them a little bit differently each time. This time I'm going with a little strip across the top and bottom, pretty similar to what we did on the last spread, but bringing back that scrapbooking paper, so we've really got some nice depth and contrast going on here. We can check the spare spread off the to-do list now and move on to the first of the weeklies for April. This one's a fun little asymmetrical moment where we have 6 of the days of the week along the center of the spread somewhat. We have a little extra one at the top left for Monday and another extra one at the bottom right for notes. And then we have all of this beautiful space that we can use to decorate and really get the theme going here, because I feel like we had to be a bit sparing on a few of the last spreads and I want to have some fun. I prefer to prioritize weeks staying together rather than months staying together as far as my weeklies in my journal. So the first day of this weekly in April is actually the last day of March, the 31st, but because it falls on a Monday and more of the days of this week fall into April than into March, that means it's going to go in the April spreads. This is also a really good opportunity to use up some of the offcuts from the scrapbooking paper that I haven't found a space for elsewhere. I'm going to use those as kind of a basis and then anchor lots of my stickers around them. I also accidentally made the Monday lines an extra space too long, so I'm just going to use my white paint marker to make them pretend that never happened at all. I don't know what you mean. In my own journal, I typically only set up the first weekly for my video that I share, but because this one is not for me and it's already set up and it's gone overseas, I'm going to show you all of them. This second design is one that I use in my own journal pretty often, but I usually put them into boxes. But once again, I like the idea of suspension and floating in space for this one, so we're just going to do second line highlights to denote each day's area rather than a box around the outside. I'm using different colors for each day, bringing in some of the pastel that we've used throughout other spreads, and I'm going to just decorate the bottom of this spread this time instead of including a note section as a way to get some stickers on the page and bring in some consistency. I'm also bringing back my silicone letter stamps for that same little nod of consistency back to the beginning of this setup. And I've alternated the side that each of the blocks of planning space are aligned to so that I would have room left over to add these big stamps. I thought that would look really cool, and I think I was right. I really like this one. It doesn't feel super cohesive with the theme because this one is lacking some of the contrast of some of the previous spreads, but I still really like it and I'm not mad at it. It's just kind of a different flavor of the same cake, you know? We've got 2 weekly spreads still to go after this one, and I'm running out of sparkles, so I'm turning to my wonderful stamp set from the Quirky Cup Collective. This one is the Practical Magic stamp set, and I'm using some of the sparkles from that with my paint marker in order to keep the sparkle going throughout the setup. I'm also running quite low on the magical girls too, so I'm trying to use them somewhat sparingly as well, but I'm very happy if I finish up the setup and they're all gone. That just feels like perfect timing to me. I finally caved and put something in a box. This one is the 3rd of our weeklies, but I still feel like the boxes are kind of floating in space, so I'm not mad at it, actually. This time, the planning's going to happen on the bottom half of the spread, so we can leave the top part open for the decoration and the pretty. And for the sake of symmetry, I'm including 8 boxes. We're just going to make the last one into a notes box so that everything looks really nicely balanced across the spread. This one's ended up pretty minimal, and I'm going to use the opportunity to really use up the rest of my sparkles here, but I actually think it turned out really cute. I don't know about you, but this theme is making me really want to listen to Jamiroquai's Cosmic Girl. It seems like a perfect fit. We've got one more weekly spread to set up here, and then we are all set for April in the Mystery Journal. This last weekly is sort of a variation on the previous one, although we're not really putting things in boxes, we're just adding crosses to the page. I've called this one a SWOT analysis weekly in the past, for lack of a better term. You're really dividing the page into 4 and then using each of those spaces for daily planning. In the past, when I've tried this, I've had the page fully divided into quarters, but this time I thought I would smush things down a little bit, so the planning is happening on the lower part of the left page and the higher part of the right page, and leaving some extra negative space in there to add some pretty, because I love to add some pretty, you know this about me. I even add the word pretty in the spaces that I plan to decorate on my spread, just because that's what makes the most sense to me. You can kind of see it on the page sometimes in pencil. I'm really challenging myself for the pretty sections of this spread to just use up the leftover little offcuts of everything else that I've used throughout the setup. So trying to find a way to make them look intentional and purposeful and not like they were just offcuts from somewhere else was a little challenging, but I think it worked out pretty well. I also don't need to worry anymore about running out of things for this theme because this is the last spread that I need to use them on, so that's a very freeing feeling. And so April in the Mystery Journal for 2025 is all set up, and I am so happy with the cosmic vibes. I would never pick this color scheme out off the top of my head. It was just because there was a little bit of yellow represented in some of the Galaxy papers that this whole color scheme even came to life in the first place. It feels whimsical, but it also feels exploratory. It feels feminine, but it also feels like science fiction, and I love walking that line. If you've made it all the way here to the flip through, make sure that you leave me your favorite space emoji in your comment down below. And if you're keen to start exploring your own creative practice, whether that is a journal or something else, don't forget to check out Skillshare at my link in the description. If you're keen to keep watching, here is a playlist of all of the Mystery Journal videos for 2025 so far, and underneath that is a link to a video that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. See you later, Space Cowboy!